Welcome to Work is Good, a CSM podcast. My name is Landon Buteau, and I host the show with my dad, Chris Buteau, the owner and president at CSM. Today's episode is our mortgage conversation for the week. And in this one, we talk about a concept that I think everyone should be familiar with. We're talking about paying for discount points on your mortgage, whether you should do that and why or why not. And I think this concept is good to be familiar with because it's really pretty simple and straightforward to learn how it works, but it's not exactly intuitive in figuring out how to apply it. And so to help you out, you can learn it quickly and remember it, and then when you do come to the point where you are ready to refinance or get your first mortgage or whatever it may be, then it's just a concept you'll already be familiar with, and it's one less thing you'll have to learn, and you'll be able to leverage your money better. So thanks for listening and enjoy today's episode. And a quick reminder that if you want to work with us here at CSM, go to clevelandstreet.com. We're going to get to mortgage question of the week.
Yeah.
And this week we want to ask about discount points.
Yes.
And what they are and when should I buy points?
Yeah. So points, is kind of short form for extra fees you pay to buy the rate below what the lender's going rate is that day. So any given day, the lender has kind of what we sort of informally call the par rate. And that's the rate in which the lender says, here's the rate we have for you today. And of course, you're going to have to pay all your regular people involved in that transaction, your appraiser, your title, your escrow, for your credit report, any of those fees you're going to have to pay. But we're not going to charge you extra to get that rate. And let's say that today that rate is 6.75% on a 30-year mortgage with decent credit. That rate is 6.75. Now you may say, look, I'm willing to pay an extra one-time cost to get a permanent reduction in the interest rate. And generally you're saying that because you believe that over time, paying that extra upfront fee is going to be more than offset by the lower interest rate over time. And so that extra fee is calculated as a percentage of the loan amount. And so we just call that points. But it's not necessarily just 1 point, 2 point. It can be a fraction of a point. But let's say if it's 1 point and it's a $400,000 loan amount, that would be $4,000 extra, one-time extra fee. And then let's say you bought the rate down by a quarter point. So it'd be 0.25% interest rate. So you're going from 6.75 to 6.5.
Mm-hmm. And
you just do the math. How much does that quarter point reduction in interest rate save me on a $400,000 loan?
Right.
Over, so it's X dollars per year. And I'm paying $4,000 to get that, so how long does it take before that lower interest rate more than covers this?
Yeah.
So that's the general concept of paying points. Now there's also, in this market in particular, it becomes more relevant, people who are struggling to qualify for the house that they set their sights on. Let's say they started this process a year ago and now interest rates are higher and it's harder to qualify. Sometimes you'll pay points to buy the rate down, not because you necessarily think you're going to be in that loan long enough to break even, but that's because that's what it takes for you to qualify.
Right.
You were already kind of pushing up to the limit of what you could qualify for based upon the 6.25 interest rates, and now they're 6.75.
Right, and buying that rate down reduces your monthly payment, which is what's used to qualify.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so people do that. When should you use points? When is it a good idea? In terms of the break-even analysis, I always tell people generally, I'm generally don't recommend people pay points in order to make the long-term play on the cost of money. And the reason for that is that you're betting a lot of money up front that you're going to be in that loan long enough for that to pay off. And lenders price points like car dealers price extended car warranties. When you buy a car from a dealer, they're going to offer you an extended car warranty. And they're going to say, look, if you pay me $2,000, we'll extend your car warranty against all of these things that could happen. Your transmission fails or whatever happens. And it's nice to have that security, but you're paying a lot of money up front. And the dealer doesn't know if they're going to make money on you or not, but they do know they're going to make money on the averages. They know over a whole fleet of cars over many years what the average failure rate of different things are, what the average maintenance costs are, what the average repair costs are. And so they know, and they price that accordingly. And so it's the same with lenders. They know the average life of a loan, and they're pricing these things accordingly so that they're going to make money when they're offering you the opportunity to pay extra money up front to buy that rate down.
Yeah.
And so generally you're betting against the averages, and you're betting, let's say in my example, $4,000 up front, that you're going to be in that loan longer than the average life of a loan, because that's what it was generally calculated to cost you, is so that on average that lender's going to break even or make some money. And then if you do beat the average, it's not like, oh, okay, I bet that 4,000 and I hit the jackpot, so I just got past the break-even point. Now I'm up $4,000. No, now you're up $100. You bet that 4,000, you made it 1 month past the break-even point. Now you're up $100.
Yeah.
And so it's not that you just make it past the break-even and you did fine. You didn't lose money in that case by doing that, but you really haven't made up for the amount you risked. So that's why I just generally don't recommend it.
As an investment, long-term financial investment, generally not advisable, especially during high rates.
Exactly. I was just going to add that because I forgot to mention that, and that's especially when rates are high. And nobody knows the future. Nobody can guarantee that rates are going to come down in the future. But what we do know is rates are, based upon the recent 2 decades, let's say, they're pretty high relative to the last 20 years or so. And so we can generally expect that they'll come down. I think that's a reasonable expectation, a reasonable hope. No guarantee, but there's a reasonable hope to do that. And so when rates are high, and then you're paying points, in order to buy that rate down, what happens often is within a year or say 2 years of you paying those $4,000, now rates have come back down again, and you could have refinanced into an even lower rate, or you do refinance into an even lower rate, and so you kind of wasted that $4,000 to get a lower rate that you were going to end up refinancing
definitely didn't pay off
under.
1 year.
Or
2 years.
So
but should I feel bad about paying for points if they do help me qualify, like you're talking about? If they're a bad investment like that, should I be worried that I am paying points?
No, not at all, because then it's a function of let's say that there's a house out there and you're willing to pay. Let's say the house is $500,000 and you're willing to pay $500,000, but you don't qualify. You don't qualify for that house at $500,000. But let's say that seller is willing to sell it. Let's say he's willing to sell it to you for $480,000, and you just don't qualify at $480,000, but you can qualify at $500,000 if the seller gives you $20,000 as a seller credit, and you use that $20,000 to buy the rate down.
So they net the same.
And in that case, you haven't really paid that money to get the lower interest rate.
Right.
You paid that money to qualify
to get the
house that you wanted to get, and you were more than willing to pay that much for the house. It's just how you structured the financing. Really is sort of inconsequential to you. I mean, it's not totally inconsequential, but it's not something where you're going to go, oh, whether this was a good decision or not is going to depend on what happens in the future.
Right.
No,
you got the house.
I got the house, and that's what I needed to do to get the house, and I was more than willing to pay that price for the house. Just like any other decision you make on a house, am I willing to pay that price for the house? So it really becomes a part of the purchase price of the house. And the lower interest rate is great. Maybe it'll pay off over time, and hopefully it won't. Hopefully you'll look back and go, well, that was kind of a waste from a financial standpoint, because now my rate's going. Now I'm refinancing to an even lower rate. So happy me.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks for listening to Work is Good. If you enjoyed it, share it with someone else, leave a review, and listen next week.